In this episode of the Orange Nerd Show, we are talking about the Disney stock price. It's all the talk on social media. All the talk on social media. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about if Bob Iger should step down and maybe exit before he's supposed to. I don't know. Some people are saying that might be the best option. We're going to talk about it up next on this episode of the Orange Nerd Show. Welcome aboard to another episode of the Orange Nerd Show. Here on the Orange Nerd Show, we talk about everything except the theme parks. We talk about the corporate side of Disney, like today with the stock and the CEO. We talk about Marvel, Star Wars, the nerdy side, the content side. So I got my good friend, my family, Mr. Matthew Muir, all the way from the UK. Matthew, thank you for joining me, brother.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining, man. And down below, I will be linking his Twitter. Definitely give Matthew a follow on Twitter. He very, very passionate Disney fan, very insightful. You definitely want to check him out. Awesome guy. So Matthew, I want to welcome you to the channel again. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely, brother. So let's talk about this, man. Like, there's been a lot of talk, like, amongst the fan circles, amongst Wall Street and all this stuff about the Disney stock price. It's the lowest it's been in 10 years and the whole 9 yards. I'll start. I know, all the doom and gloom. Mind you, everybody, doom and gloom right now has been totally monetized. And Disney, the Mouse House, is very much a target because it's very relevant and people want to know about Disney. So there's a reason why there's a disproportionate amount of attention on every time Disney's stock price goes down, as opposed to, say, Warner Brothers or beloved national treasure Comcast Universal's stock price. So there's a reason for that. But Matthew, what are your thoughts on the stock price for Disney? Obviously, it's not in good shape. No one's saying that. But like, what do you feel? Do you feel like this is devastating? Do you feel like it's much ado about nothing? Like, where do you stand on it, Matthew?
I would personally say it is slightly worrying, but it could be worse.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it is worrying. I think a lot of these people will call us a pixie duster because, well, we're not saying the company is going to collapse tomorrow, so therefore you're a pixie duster, you fucking chill. We're not pixie dusters here, you guys. We just don't think the company is going to necessarily collapse. But that doesn't mean we're not worried about the stock price. Like Matthew, I'm very worried about the stock price. I'm very worried about the health of the company. But at the end of the day, I do think they will survive. You know, I don't think this is a death blow to the Walt Disney Company. Now, Matthew, because the stock is at a 10-year low. I mean, there's no denying that. Those are the facts. What do you think is driving this? Why is the stock at a low point right now? Is it what Disney's doing necessarily? Is it external factors? A little bit of both? What are your thoughts on that, Matthew?
I'd say it's a bit of both.
Okay. And if you could kind of elaborate, like what factors are those that you feel are driving?
I would say partly because Disney is still in too much debt because they're carrying too much dead weight, and also partly because other big investment firms are doing a lot of damage.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, what do you mean by the big investment firms doing a lot of damage? Like, in what way do you think they're doing damage?
Trying to devalue the company.
That's interesting. That's actually, we have a mutual friend on Twitter, or what they call X now, right? Hedge, right? We both love Hedge, and he's been saying that for a long time. That these people, like in Wall Street or what have you, they're trying to purposely devalue and drive the company down, especially CNBC, because it's owned by rival Comcast. They try very hard to make Disney look as stupid as possible. So that's a possibility. I mean, it is a possibility that they are trying to drive this down. What do you think the reason for that would be, though, Matthew? Like, what's your theory as to why that would be occurring?
I think it would be a threat because Disney right now, they're in a very precarious position because they have they've not only got too many assets and they're not sure what best to sell off yet. They've also got no clear successor yet, which we'll go into in a while, and also just this general feeling that maybe Disney is just too big.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I mean, I'm not, as a huge Disney fan, we both are. We're both massive Disney people. I'm not necessarily opposed to Disney selling things off. I think that the company could use a little bit of a haircut, so to speak, right? I mean, that's fine. Like if they want to sell things off, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. The stuff that I'm opposed to is when people get on social media or YouTube or whatever, and they say, well, Disney needs to like spin the movies off, or like spin the parks off, or like, see, that's where I kind of, that's where you lose me, right? That's where you lose OG, because Disney at its heart and soul, it's movies and theme parks. Okay. You can't sell Marvel and Star Wars off. What gain would you get from that? What gain?
Virtually nothing.
Absolutely nothing, right, Matthew? Like, what would you get from selling off, say, Lucasfilm or Marvel? Because now you sell this off to somebody else, and now Disney has to pay that other company licensing fees to utilize those properties in their theme parks. Because all this stuff,
and will the other companies handle them much better?
Right, exactly. What company's going to handle it much better? You think Warner Brothers with David Zaslav over there, who's shitting the bed 20 different ways a week? You think he's going to handle Marvel better? Come on, look how he's handling DC right now. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. You think Comcast is going to handle it better? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I think that, I think you're right, Matthew. I think that no other company's going to be able to handle it better. They got to keep their core assets in house. Now, what I do support them selling off are some of the stuff that would be considered, in my opinion, extra. So like the ESPNs, the ABCs, a lot of the linear TV, like the freeform stuff like that. I think that stuff is pretty expendable. And to be honest with you, I think that's the most likely scenario if we already hear of a Disney breakup, is they're gonna offload some of this linear TV stuff. What do you think about that with linear TV, Matthew? You think they're gonna possibly get rid of that stuff? Is that when people say Disney break up, do you think that's what they mean by that? Like the linear stuff?
Yeah, I think that's what most level-headed people mean.
Right. Yeah, because
people like us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because like our friend, like we mentioned earlier, Hedge, Disney he mentioned on Twitter how Disney is a synergy machine, right? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to sell IP, because you utilize that stuff in your movies, your theme parks, everything. It's all connected in that kind of like in that flywheel, as Chapek called it, right? So you sell that stuff, and all you do is make it more complicated for yourself to utilize those properties in the future. Now, a property like ABC, that's a dying sort of media. Like, I mean, that's traditional TV is something that's been kind of like, on its way out for a long time.
Slowly dying.
Yeah, exactly. So you offload that, you make money on that. I could see the value in getting rid of something like that. It's not necessarily bringing much to the company right now. Back when Michael Eisner bought ABC back in the mid-90s, it made a whole lot of sense. We didn't have streaming and all that stuff back then. So it gave Disney a network TV station, or whatever you call it, to kind of showcase their content. But they don't need that now. They got Disney Plus, they have streaming, they have all this other stuff that they can kind of utilize for that. So to sell off ABC, I think would be a smart move. Matthew, we've heard rumors now that maybe ESPN, Disney might be partnering with Amazon, maybe with ESPN. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I've heard about it, and I think it might actually be quite important, because Amazon or maybe even Apple could be a potential buyer for ESPN or any other assets that Disney doesn't really need.
Right. And ESPN, if they do, like, maybe they don't give up complete ownership, but they give Amazon, or like you said, Apple, like a stake in that company, the ESPN. That's a moneymaker for Disney, and that's not Disney's core what do you want to call it? Like core thing, right? Because like it's not studio, it's not theme park. So I can see them doing something like that. Okay, I can see them kind of sharing that with an Amazon. I think that would be a really, really smart move, actually. Now, I want to talk to you, Matthew, a little bit about like the fandom. I don't even know. I mean, in some cases, it's really not even fandom, and I'll get to that in a second. But we've talked a lot online about the perception of the Disney stock from fans or from content creators, right? And you and I are both. Look, you and I are both. We are very concerned with the stock price. It's not like we're sitting here saying, "Hey, the stock is great, everybody." Like, you know, nothing's wrong. Like you mentioned, I mentioned, it's at a 10-year low. This is not good. But there are people out there that sort of almost, I don't know, like they get happy when the stock goes down. It's like gleeful. It's like this kind of like almost like, yeah, look at the mouse house. It's taking a hit. Like,
you know what I think it is? I honestly think it's just the belief that if a Walt Disney Company really does go under, it will rise from the ashes again in their image.
Right.
In
it's not going to
brutal purist image.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I mean, you're gambling high stakes right there, thinking like if the Walt Disney Company were to collapse and get broken up into pieces and sold off and bought by other companies, that it would rise up and become something better. Look, I'm not saying that's impossible. That could absolutely happen. Absolutely.
But it's extremely unlikely.
Right. It's extremely unlikely. And you're really, really gambling with that, you know? I also think that there is an element here where there are a lot of culture warriors out there that see Disney as woke. It's fine. Look, you have your politics. You think it's woke. That's all good. I think there's a little bit of like, we want Disney to fail and we want as much damage as possible as a notch in our belt, right? Like, oh, see, they went woke and they had to sell off Lucasfilm because they went woke. It's bragging rights. It's something to put up on the mantle and say, because you went woke, Disney, because you went woke, Mouse House, look what you had to do. It's not so much about we care about the Walt Disney Company. It's more about ha, look what you had to do because you didn't play by the right politics. You didn't play by the politics we wanted you to play by. Do you kind of get that impression too from a lot of this stuff, Matthew? Yeah. Unfortunately, and that's unfortunate. You know, that's unfortunate because, and look, I think that like majority of fans really want this company to do really well, like honestly. But I do think there's an element out there that just it's a political thing, you know, and they just want as much damage as possible. And that's why there's that, you see that like kind of happiness when the stock goes down with this. Now, do you think, Matthew, that like going forward, because you know Bob Iger's back in the on the throne, right? He's the CEO again. I don't know. Iger 2.0 has been pretty lackluster. I got to be honest. He hasn't really been the heavy hitter that I thought. There's been a lot of like, surprisingly, a lot of like PR kind of missteps, which is unusual from a Bob Iger, to be honest. Some kind of Chapek-y mistakes in terms of the public relations, you know. But what do you think going forward is going to happen with this company? Like, what do you think is going to happen with the stock price? Like, do you think that Iger could possibly get them out of this rut, or are you really skeptical?
I personally think there's like a 50-50 chance that he's the one to do it. Wow, there is a chance that the stock price could fall further, and so Disney might have to accelerate the selection process for a successor because the search is already underway.
Yes, and that's actually perfect segue, Matthew, to our next topic, which is, I'm glad you brought this up. Okay, so the stock price goes down. Let's say the stock price goes down to like $65 a share or something, right? Or $70 a share. That's really low for the Walt Disney Company. Was
that the lowest that it was in like 2004 or something?
Yeah, I think so. It would bring it back down to those levels. Okay, so it's been 20 years since it's been that low. So let's say it goes down to 70 or something like that. So you believe like that would accelerate this CEO successor project? Because Bob Iger just. That's interesting. Yeah, because Bob Iger just extended. So yeah, but he might. That's the thing, you know, Matthew. You might be right on that because there might be pressure from Wall Street to be like, "Hey, this isn't the right guy." Look what's going on with the company right now. They're at $70 a share. You guys gotta make major moves, So that would be wild. Now, do you think that would be good for the company, possibly? Or do you think that would maybe even be worse if they accelerated that process?
Quite honestly, it could go either way.
Yeah, I can see it.
I will say that they shouldn't throw Iger out just yet, because until the stock price does actually reach that level, because it might just bring about more instability.
That's kind of where my mind is at, Matthew. Like, they've already switched CEOs out last November with Chapek, and that was a ballsy move in and of itself. To switch out a CEO again a year later or less than a year later. See, I don't know what if the stock price, let's say the stock price goes down to 70, right? Hypothetical. And then they say, okay, we're firing Iger, we're bringing in Tom Staggs, which we would love that. Okay, we would. But would Wall Street love that? I don't know. See, that's the thing. Like, because you're inserting more instability into the situation. This is your second CEO ousted in 1 year. Like, Wall Street doesn't really like instability. My mind is kind of like right now, at least, and anything can change, right? Like, I didn't predict the Chapek ouster in November, but right now, my mind is sort of like, I think they're going to let Iger do his thing. I think they're going to let him kind of see out his contract because of that reason. I don't think they want to create any more instability in the company. They'll let him see out his contract. I think it's until 2026, I believe now. But I think they're going to really get more serious in regards to within the next year. I'm saying like probably within the next year or so, announcing who the new CEO is going to be. And so Wall Street and everybody has like an idea. Okay, so this is our person. This is the person that's going to take over for Iger. There's a succession now in motion. So he won't leave. Iger won't necessarily leave, but Dana Walden, Tom Staggs, Kevin Meyer, whoever they pick will be announced, I think, fairly shortly within the next year. And that'll sort of solidify and kind of calm down the fears of Wall Street that they don't have anyone in mind, right? That they don't know who can replace Iger. I think they're going to pick somebody and make it public very, very soon. What do you think, Matthew? You think that's a possibility?
Yeah, chances are they may not even out Iger, but ask him to work alongside Staggs or Walden, whoever gets selected.
Yeah. Now, I want to bring this up to you, Matthew, because like you and I are both Tom Staggs fanboys. We love Tom Staggs, I mean, he's awesome, right? I mean, it was a sin what they did to him when they let him go a few years ago. There were rumors, and I haven't had you on since this, so I want to talk to you about this. There were not even rumors, actually. It was confirmed that Bob Iger has brought on Tom Staggs and Kevin Meyer, this Disney alumni, to sort of be advisors to the linear television side of things. What are your thoughts on that? Because it seems like there's more to that, in my opinion, than meets the eye. But go ahead, Matthew. Your thoughts on bringing them back?
It is confirmation, as far as I'm concerned, that they are on their way back.
It seems like it, right? I mean, like, why? Okay, you have all these candidates. You got Dana Walden, who I've said many times on the channel. Dana Walden is a very, very competent, seasoned executive. I mean, she can handle her stuff. I mean, she's made her mistakes, but she's competent. She can do her thing. You got Dana Walden, you got Daddy Josh, which we won't even get into that because, but there's a lot of people that are in-house, right, that are being considered for CEO. Why isn't Iger going to those people? Why isn't he going to Daddy Josh? Why isn't he going to Dana Walden? Why is he going to two guys, Tom Staggs and Kevin Meyer, outside the company to get advice about linear network TV? That says a whole lot.
Possibly say because he knows how precarious the situation is for those assets, and also to sort of atone almost for letting Staggs go, like because and also for botching in his succession plan back in 2020 when Staggs was projected to succeed him, but Chapek was selected.
Yeah. I think you're right, Matthew. I think you're absolutely right, brother. Like, and I think he really regrets. I know he really regrets that decision. Is kind of stepping over Staggs to to get to Chapek. He's got to regret that, man. And he even stepped over to Kevin Meyer. And I made many videos. Check it out, everybody at home. Search my channel. I made many videos about Kevin Meyer. I was all in on the Kevin Meyer thing. I thought, oh, for surely Bob Iger's going to choose Kevin Meyer because Meyer is a studio guy, right? Traditionally, Disney hires studio people to run the company. On top of that, Meyer was like Bob Iger's right-hand man during every single succession. I mean, not succession, I'm sorry, every single acquisition. So whether that be Lucasfilm, Marvel, Pixar, I think even Fox, like all of them were that was Kevin Meyer. And then like basically all those acquisitions were the reason why Bob Iger, his legacy was so good because I mean, that was his legacy, were those acquisitions. And Meyer was integral to that whole process. I'm like, there's no way. He has to be on the short list. I mean, Meyer's got to get this. And then when they announced Chapek, I was like, whoa, this is like, it threw me for a loop. I was just shocked, you know? So Bob Iger knew he made a mistake. He knew he fucked up. And yeah, you're right, man. I think he's trying to make amends now with these guys because he knew he messed up. He absolutely messed up. These are the right guys for the company. I think that like we'll see what happens. I think this advisory role with Staggs and Meyer is very, very good news. It shows that, well, number one, that Iger trusts these gentlemen, and number two, I think it shows that they're definitely being eyed for possibly succeeding Iger. We'll see how. I think the big test for these guys is how they do with the like. They're advising Iger right now, right? If what they advise him on works and it's successful, I think it's a shoo-in. I think these guys will take over, and we'll see. Maybe we'll get
to work.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you think it's likely that their advice will work, or do you think there is still a small chance that it might not?
I mean, there's always a chance it might not. But considering the track record of these gentlemen, like Kevin Meyer and Tom Staggs, I mean, these guys have a good track record. So, I mean, even running their own company, Candle Media, they've been very successful. When they were at Disney, Tom Staggs was very successful in whatever he did, whether he was the CFO, the chief financial officer, whether he was running the parks, he crushed it every single time. Kevin Meyer, same thing. He crushed it with these acquisitions. I just can't imagine it not being successful. These guys have such a great track record. So I think it will be successful. I think right now, to be honest, and I you know, look, I'm rooting for these guys, and I want these guys to be the next CEO. I was kind of skeptical that it would ever happen, though. But after this news that they became advisors, I'm kind of like more on board with that. I kind of think they're like the top contender right now. I think Dana Walden has kind of lost a little bit of her shine, to be honest. This was a huge blow for her, you know? Huge blow. So I don't know. I don't know what she did or what she didn't do, but she's definitely lost a little bit of her shine lately. Bringing these guys in shows you that he doesn't trust her 100%. And that's very telling. So what are your thoughts on Dana Walden? Have your thoughts changed, Matthew, at all on her? Or
somewhat? I used to really admire Dana Walden, but now that now having heard the news about Staggs and Meyer, I'm starting to realize that even though she is a studio person, maybe Staggs and Meyer just might have the edge needed.
Yeah, no, I think so. We'll see what happens. Now, our good friend Alia, friend of the channel, and you know what? I want to also say happy birthday, Alia. Alia recently had a birthday. Happy birthday, Alia. We wish you all the best. Alia is a contributor here on the channel, but she's been saying for a long time now that if Disney makes moves for Candle Media, it's all but confirmed that Disney is looking to bring these guys in as the next CEO, either a CEO singular position, so maybe like Tom Staggs will be the CEO, or like a co-CEO position like Netflix has, where they have two people running the company. And you have Staggs and Meyer running the company. Now, I would prefer the co-CEO thing. That model has worked very, very well for Disney historically. I mean, the Walt Disney Company was founded on that model with Walt and his brother Roy. It was accelerated with Michael Eisner and Frank Wells, who we are both, again, very big fans of. I think Disney needs that duality running this company. So I don't know. You think that's a possibility that they might have two people run the company, Matthew?
Yeah, I think that structure will eventually be reinstated in some form.
Yeah, hopefully, man. That would be. Oh god, if they have Staggs and Meyer as the co-CEOs of the Walt Disney Company, that's the money shot right there. That's exactly what this company needs. I think that would be fantastic. I think that I would be so optimistic for Disney with those two guys running the company. We'll see what happens, man. So to kind of close it out, Matthew, like overall, we talked a lot about Succession. We talked a lot about the stock price. You're over, like right now, what are you feeling with the Walt Disney Company? Because I know on Twitter, on X, you're worried, and rightfully so. And I am too, actually. It's like, are you, like, kind of elaborate on that, like on your concerns, on where you stand? What are you fearful of? What are you optimistic about? Kind of let everybody know kind of where you're at with this.
I think my main concern is that Iger might not be the right person to sell off unnecessary assets, and Disney's debt burden might eventually get too much.
Okay, and when you say too much, you mean like it might become to a point where the company might
have to start splitting up.
Yeah. Hopefully not, man. Hopefully not. I hope he doesn't buckle to the pressure of like these
Wall Street.
Yeah, exactly, man. And like, I think he's onto something, like with the CNBC stuff, man. Like, you have Disney's biggest competitor with Comcast Universal. You have that company who, or not only is it Disney's biggest competitor, but it's run by a guy who has a chip on his shoulder with Disney. I mean, a lot of people watching this might not be old enough to remember, but in 2004, 2005, Brian Roberts wanted the Walt Disney Company. He made a unsolicited offer to buy Disney, and it didn't happen. They knocked him down. They denied it, and Bob Iger took over. So this guy Brian Roberts has an axe to grind with not only Disney but Bob Iger. So you have this company owned by the company that that Brian Roberts runs, Universal Comcast, with their financial network, trying to pretend like they're like, oh, we're concerned for Disney, and Iger, you should really do this. I don't know, Iger. Look, Iger, if you're ever watching this, by any chance you come across this video, you happen to see this, I would be very, very hesitant about ever going on CNBC, number one. Number two, trusting anything they say. They are not in your corner, Bob. They are not in your corner. This is your biggest competitor with a guy who has such an axe to grind with you. You got to be careful, man. And I don't know why. I don't know what it is, Matthew, but Iger seems to walk into this shit. And I'm like, everyone else sees it. Like you, me, Hedge, we all see it. Like, why would you go to CNBC? You have your own network, Bob. You have ABC. Go to the ABC financial sector, whatever, and do an interview with them. Why are you going to CNBC so they can grill you and then soundbite you and make you look foolish every single time? It makes no sense. Every single time.
He's backed himself into a corner.
He backs himself into a corner, Matthew, 100%. Matthew, brother, I want to thank you so much for coming on. We'll have you on again. You know, it's hard because Matthew is in the UK, so it's really hard to coordinate all the guys to be on at the same time, you know, because right now George is working, but Matthew's in the UK. So if we wait until George gets off work, then it's like 3 a.m. for Matthew. So we're trying to coordinate this. Next video, we're going to try to get the guys on, try to get George on, and we get like a panel with Matthew. I think it'd be a lot of fun, Matthew. We'll work it out, man. We'll work it out. We'll see what we can do. I'll talk to George and see what his days off are and everything. But I want to get you back on soon with everybody, and we'll talk some shop. But Matthew, I want to thank you, brother, for coming back on. I will again link his Twitter in the description down below. Matthew, before we go, any final comments or concerns?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Thank you, Matthew. And thank you all for watching. Comment down below with all your questions, concerns in regard to Bob Iger, Succession, the Disney stock price, all that stuff. Thank you so much for watching the Orange Nerd Show.